Alright, hi everyone. Let me know if my voice is coming fine so that we can proceed. Right, so let me know if my voice is fine. So I hope so. My voice is fine right now, but still, like, if my voice is going to be low, so let me know. Today we are going to be working on Cisco Packet Tracer, which is going to be the part of CCNA. Now, if you don't know about CCNA, so CCNA is basically Cisco Certified Network Admin or Network Associate. Now, this is a certification which is being offered by the company Cisco. This certification actually involves and gives you some great instructions and lets you know about the networking industry. Alright, so the networking actually is really important because when you are dealing something like that related to laptops or related to any kind of devices, it can be smartphone, radio frequencies, or any kind of thing. So you need to understand about the networks, how the network actually travels, what are some of the basic configurations you need to understand about the CCNA. We are going to be working on that. Before that, we are going to be installing one of our software with the name Cisco Packet Tracer. For me, I basically went for the Mac. By the way, you can go for the Windows, and basically don't go for the first website because you have to make some username and ID. But go to the second link, and once actually you go here, you're going to be having Cisco Packet Tracer for all the operating systems. It can be for Windows, it can be for Linux or Mac. So based on your operating system, you can actually download. Alright, and once you are actually having the information and knowledge of using the Cisco Packet Tracer, you can actually go and give your Cisco certificate, of course CCNA examination. Alright, personally I've already been downloaded, so I'm just going to be executing it directly from my applications menu. Let's go to the application, and yes, we are going to be having our Cisco Packet Tracer software. By the way, you may need to make some email address on your Cisco website in order to log in, because it's not going to be working properly until unless you're not having the user ID and password. Alright, so this is going to be the very first view of the Cisco Packet Tracer software. Now the important part is I'm going to be closing up this terminal. Once you are going to be having this UI interface, you can actually see you are going to be having some devices here in the very bottom screen. Alright, so these devices are going to be network devices. If I'm going to be taking my mouse pointer to the first section, so these are the network devices. Here you can see we are having some router, right? So these are some different models of router, and this is the latest or Cisco router 2811, which is the recent and the most updated version of the Cisco router. Alright, apart from that, you can also go to the switches. If I go and change to the switch tab, you are going to be having some Cisco switches. You are going to be having the recent and latest model 2950T. Apart from that, I can also go to the hubs. You are having some hub section here. You can go into the wireless devices, which are going to be some home Wi-Fi, cell tower, or CD server. We are going to be having some firewall, which is 5505 and 5506. We are going to be having some WAN, we can say simulation, so we can actually implement some cloud technology also here. But let's go to the routers because it's going to be really introductory one, and this is not going to be a course, just an introductory that how actually the network works. All right, now what I can do is, like as usual, we are going to be having some other devices also. You can see that I'm having PC, laptop, server, we are having Maria DB server, we are going to be having controllers, IP phone. Now all these devices are working on the simulated manner, right? So these are not actual devices, but it's going to be giving you a simulated network so that you can understand that how a device actually works over a network, what type of configurations are done inside that network, then only it is able to communicate or gets online to the internet, right? By the way, we are having some wire connections also. Like as usual, you may have seen that your computers are connected with the Ethernet cable sometimes. Then how the Ethernet cable is giving the connectivity, the internet connectivity to your computer. So this is going to be something which we can actually learn. Right, let's go to the router. Let's click on one router, and I'm going to place this router here. I think so I can also zoom. Yep, so I can actually zoom the screen. So you can see here it is written router 0. Let's zoom more. By the way, if I want to change the name of this router, so I can actually change the name of this router to router 1. If I hit enter, so you can see that this is going to be renamed with the router 1. Let's select one more router and keep it here, so it will automatically going to be having the router 2 as the name, right? But you can change anything. You can actually have your name, you can have any other name, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just taking router 1 and router 2 for your comfort. All right, before going, so what we can do is let's open this router by clicking on this router. So once I click, so this is going to be the interface of a router. So if you are going to be having a hardware router, which is going to be Cisco router or any kind of company's router, so you can see that this is going to be the back side of router. Now these are some ports which we can increase. By default a router is having 2 ports, but if you want we can increase. Now if I select this, so you can see I can just drag and drop here. So overall the router is going to be having 6 ports, because this particular module is having 4 ports and by default the router is having 2 ports. So in overall it's going to be having 6 ports. But right now I'm just telling you that you are going to be having different variations. This is going to be having 2 ports, so overall the router is going to be having 4 ports, but let it be. Right now what I can go is I can go into the CLI. Now if you see above we are having some configuration and CLI. If I go into the CLI, this is going to be the CLI interface, but I think so this is really small. So if I can close this, it's fine. Right, so let me just try to close this one. All right, let's increase the size. So I can actually go to the Cisco packet tracer. I can go into the preferences if I'm not wrong, and in the preferences I'm going to be go to the font, and we are having CLI, so yeah, we can increase the font to at least let's go to 18 and let's check out if it works. So let's apply, let's close this again, open the router, let's go to the CLI, and yeah, now it's working. Let's try to change the screen also, because I'm not able to understand the screen. So what I can do is I can actually go into the physical. Once again, let's go to the Cisco packet tracer, preferences, and here we can go to the font. We can basically change the colors. So here actually you can see the router iOS text is going to be black. Let's do it green, and background should be black. All right, so that you can also see on the screen that how actually it looks like. So let's apply, close this again, go to the router 1, go to the CLI, and yeah, that's it. So I think so now you can actually see some letters, but if it's going to be white it's going to be much more good, but let's go with this because it looks much better. All right, so now here as you can see that I am having the very first thing about the configuration whenever I'm entering into the router. So as soon as I enter the router and I go to the configuration terminal, so I have to configure something on router. All right, so before that let me show you something. If I take my mouse pointer to the router and I just keep my mouse pointer here, so you can see that there are 2 ports, right? So in the port section you can see that I'm having fast Ethernet 0x0, which is down right now. Of course no IP address has been set, and another port is fast Ethernet 0x1, which is again down, no IP address has been set on, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to assign an IP address, and then we will return back. We can see that yes, on this port the IP address has been assigned and the link is up. So this is actually a task, right? Now let's go. We are going to be the CLI. Now here as you can see that would you like to enter to the initial configuration, so we want no, right? So yep, let's hit N and hit on enter. So we are actually in the privilege mode, right? So the mode in which we are going to be having this kind of thing written, router and the greater than sign. So this actually shows us that we are in the privilege mode. Now we have to go to the next step, that is the super privilege mode. So I'm going to be writing the command enable, right? So this command is going to be making my privilege mode into the super privilege mode. If I hit enter, so you can see that the symbol has been changed from greater than sign to hash. So this actually means that I am in the super privilege mode. But there is another level which is the global mode, and there we can actually enter to the terminal or into the router, and then we can configure much more properly. Now if you're in the privilege mode or super privilege mode, you are not having the authority to do any kind of thing. So this is something kind of login, right? We log into the first level. Now we are going to be log into the second level, and ultimately we can configure the things. So here it's a super privilege. We have to go into the global mode, so it's going to be configuration terminal. So config terminal. So basically I'm using tab key, so it is automatically writing the commands. By the way, you can also check for the shortcut commands. So here basically I write configuration terminal or configure terminal. Now if I hit enter, so you can see that right now the interface has been changed. Now this is the global mode where we can do anything in the router, whatever we want. It can be IP assigning, or it can be assigning any kind of protocol, any kind of thing we can do during this particular thing, right, into this terminal, into this global mode. Now what we can do is we can check for the interfaces, how many ports or interfaces this router is having. So we can go do show interfaces. Let's go with the shortcut command, right? Do shintbri. So this basically has the full form do show interface brief, right? So yep, if I hit enter, so we are going to be having do shint. So I think so we can go more. So this is actually the information the router is having. So if I write this, alright, so it's not getting some options. So yes, let's see. Alright, so sorry for the command, right? So the command is actually do show IP interface brief, right? So do show IP intbri. So the full form is going to be do show IP, which is the IP which is not being assigned, interface for the interfaces, BRI for the brief. So here, as you can see, we are having two interfaces or two ports. By the way, ignore the third one, which is the VLAN, right? Because it is not necessary right now to understand. So just see the fast Ethernet 0x0, fast Ethernet 0x1. IP address is unassigned on both of the ports and the protocols are down. Of course, the method is unset, status is administratively down. So let's assign an IP address on F0x0. All right. So for this, we have to select the interface. So I'm going to be taking int F0x0. So F0x0, this is the full form. So as soon as I write int F0x0, that means I selected the port number or interface 0x0. All right, and I'm going to assign an IP address on this particular port number. So in order to assign an IP address, I can simply write IP add 192.168.1. Now any number you can take, I'm going to be taking 12, and we are going to be having some while mask address 255.255.255.0, right? So if I hit enter and if I do NSH, so NSH means no shutdown. So as soon as I hit enter, so there is going to be IP address which is going to be assigned where on 0x0, because we have selected 0x0. So if I hit enter, that's fine. Now if I go ahead and run the same command, which is do show IP interface brief, so you can see that yes, there is an IP address which is being assigned here and the status is up. Previously it was down, but right now the status is up. Now protocol is something which you have to understand. There are 65,535 protocols, right? Not protocols, but we can say port numbers. So overall we are having 65,535 port numbers, and on these port numbers we have several protocols which works. One out of which is OSPF, EIGRP, RIP version 2, BGP, right? Say TCP. We are going to be having so many protocols which we can actually configure here, right? So one of that is going to be OSPF, which is the open shortest path first, which basically helps the router to reach to the server or to the destination in a shortcut way. But right now I'm just going to tell you that how we can assign a kind of protocol onto this particular router. But as usual, you have to study about the protocols, right? So as usual, I told you I cannot tell you everything in this one webinar, but the important thing is that how actually the devices work. So let's implement OSPF protocol here. So we can take the command router OSPF 100, right? So if I hit enter, so now you can see that we are having another we can say mode, which is going to be the protocol mode. So in this mode I'm going to be implementing the OSPF. So I have to check for the, of course I know the IP addresses. So what I can do is I'm just going to be taking net 192.168 1.1.12, and I think so it should be area 1, right? So maybe I'm forgetting a command. So net 1 blah blah blah, so it's going to be 255.255.255.0 area.1. Alright, so I think so now that's fine. You have to write the full command. So this A actually means the area, so I have assigned the area 1 to this particular protocol, right? And that's it. Now if I go back, so basically I can go and check on this. So here also you can see that the protocol is still down, right? But in actually there is a protocol which is being assigned, and that protocol is OSPF, right? Because I have given the command here router OSPF 100. All right, so now if I go and close this, we can say router, if I take my mouse pointer here, so you can see that there is an IP address which is being assigned 192.168.1.12 with a 24-byte system. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be attaching both of these routers with a wire, right? So let's do that. Selected a wire. Now this is an automatic cable. By the way, you have to study what are cross cables, what are Ethernet cables, fast Ethernet cables, serial cables. Of course, it's a pretty wide topic, right? I am going to click here and I'm going to click here. So these both of the devices are connected. Now you can see that they are not having any connectivity. The dots are red, and here you can see that this port number 0x0 is connected with 0x0. So we have to configure the port number 0x0 as well. Let's go in the router 2. Let's go CLI, same commands, right? Enable, and we are going to be having conf t for the configuration terminal, and we are in the global mode. What I'm going to do is I have to select an interface, intf 0x0, which is basically interface selection, and I'm going to assign an IP address with the command IP add 192.168.1.21. We have taken 12 in the first router. Let's take 21 on the second router. Same commands, and NSH for no shutdown. Once if I hit enter, and if I go back to the screen, so here you can see that both of the port basically became green, which actually tells us that yes, the connection has been established. All right, that means if I ping this router from this router, it will be giving me response, and vice versa. So I think so I can basically write here as well, right? Something like that, 192. So yep, 192.168.1.12, and that's it, right? So sometimes it's not working, I don't know why, but yeah, so let it be. All right, so let it be right now. But as usual, if I take my mouse pointer here, so it's going to be 1.12. here you can see on 0x0. If I take my mouse pointer here, it's going to be 1.21 on this router. So if I go to 2, and if I try to ping the IP address of the first router, because right now I am on the router 2, so I'm going to ping the IP address of the first router. Do ping 192.168.1.12. so you have to remember the IP addresses, right? So the networking industry actually means you have to be very much professional about the IP addresses. So if I hit enter, so here as you can see that sending 500 bytes, so we are having 80% success rate. If I do it again, so we are having 100% success rate, right? So success rate is what? 100%. Now if I go to the first router, and if I do vice versa, if I ping the IP address of the second router, so it should be also giving the 100% success rate. So if I do ping 192.168.1.21, so yep, we are having 100% success rate. All right, so the important thing you need to understand is that how actually the devices work. Now this was just kind of like introduction. Now if I make a topology more complex, so this diagram is known as topology, right? So we are having different forms of topology, star topology, bus topology, but right now let's go and implement a PC here, right? So I just place a PC here, and I'm going to take a wire Ethernet cable. I'm connecting the second port with the PC. Once again you can see that it is having red dot, but the important part is now on this particular port F0 by 1 we are not having any IP address. So let's assign an IP address. If I go here and let's go exit, so for going in that, I'm going to select the interface F0 by 1 because this is something we are going to assign IP address. IP at 192.168.2. Let's take something with a name 12 again, right? 255.255.255.0 and NSH. So once it's done, if I go do sh IP int bri, so here you can see that yes, on the port number F01 also we are having the IP address which has been assigned. Now the important thing you need to remember is the third bar or the third position. Now the numbers are changed. If I'm going to be taking the same number, which is going to be 1 here, or so it's going to be overlapping. So this is something which is pretty important, but as usual you guys are not so much we can say professional in this, but still this is something which is really important. If you're assigning an IP address on the same router on different port numbers, so make sure to change the third position number, right? So now what I can do is you can see that it's green, right? If I go and click on PC, so this is actually the PC, right? I can go to the configuration here. Now this is the GUI interface, but if you want, this is the desktop. In the programming you can actually write some HTML or Python code and then you can run. I'm going to the configuration. I'm going to be selecting the interface here. It's static, so I'm going to be taking the DHCP. Now static means that you are going to assign an IP address to this PC, but I want to take automatic IP address, so I'm going to be selecting DHCP. Now if I go down, so let's wait for some time. I think so that's it. It should be having the IP address coming here automatically, right? So here also for the IPv6 we want automatic, so let's wait here. It's going to be assigning an IP address here and automatic IP address. All right, so now if I go into the desktop and if I go to the terminal or command prompt, let's go to the command prompt, and this is the CMD of the PC. All right, so we are going to be pinging the router right now. So ping 192.168.2.12. so let's wait and let's see if it's able to ping to the router or no. So you can see that the request is timed out. That means no, there is no pinging connection between the router or between what, the PC. So we have to go and change some configurations. Let's see for DHCP what it is. Let's take a static IP address. So let's just wait, maybe it's taking some time to load. Now the PC is by default having only one port. You can see it is only having fast Ethernet 0 by the name its port, but you can change the name of the PC if you want, right? So if I go on the static, let's go and change the IP address here, 192.168.2.1. I hope so, it should be working fine. Invalid gateway IP address. All right, so what we can do is 192.2.0 if it's possible. So before that we have to find the IP address. So it's not here, so we can go and check for the IP. So the IP address of our computer is actually totally different. That's why you can see that it is unable to ping, right? It is starting from 169, but we have the IP on router with starting 192. So that's why we are having sent packet from our PC, but we have received and 4% 100% loss. We have to change the IP address. As usual, the option is not coming. Let's close the PC once. Let's reopen. Let's go to the desktop. Configuration, fast Ethernet. Alright, so now we are going to be having IPv4 address section. Previously it was not coming. Let's have 192.168.2. let's take 21. As soon as I hit enter, so it is going to be automatically having the IP address. Alright, so now if I go to the desktop and command prompt, and if I go for the ping again, so yep, here you can see that we are having our internet connection and we are having 100% success rate, 0% loss. Alright, so in actually you can see that how actually the network works, how the pinging works. So ping actually tells us that yes, our device is connected with that device and we can actually control that device, or we can say that ping actually tells us that there is an internet connectivity. All right, now if I'm going to the router, so if suppose if I go physical, go back, if I go to the router and if I go to and ping the IP of the PC, so let's ping the IP address. So do ping 192.168.2, let's take 23. If I'm not wrong, we were having 2.21, right? So yep, we are having 100% success rate, right? So you have to remember the IP address is very importantly. Now one question which arises is that yes, we are having connection, we are having connectivity from this router 1 to router 2, right? We checked by the ping. We are having connectivity from router 2 to router 1, we also check that. We also have connectivity from this PC to the router 1, we check that. We also have the connectivity from router 1 to the PC, we know that. Now what if I want to make connection between this PC and this router, right? Because we are having connection from here to here, but we hadn't checked the IP address of this with this. Let's go and check on this. So the IP address of router 2 was what? 192.168.2.21 or 1.21, sorry. So we can go here and we are going to be desktop, command prompt, and I'm going to be taking ping 192.168.1.21. now this is something which is really important. Now it's going to be having 100% loss. So as usual, request timed out, that means there is 100% loss between the connection from the PC to the second router. Now why this is happening? It's really important question. So why it's happening is because of the IP addresses. Now this IP address 192.168.1.21 is having a different number, which is having 1, right? But if you see in this computer, in this PC, what I configure the IP address, if I go into the configuration, if I go fast Ethernet, so you can see that the IP is having number 2 on the third position. Now in the first router, this router on this interface, we are having the IP address 2 on the third place. That's why they were able to connect. But as soon as the IP address come here, it stops because this is having a different IP address. All right, so do you understand that how actually the things are working? Now I basically have implemented an OSPF protocol which actually helps us to automate the connectivity from anywhere to anywhere. So let's go and assign this IP address also where in our OSPF. So before that, router OSPF 100 do sh IP int bri for checking all the IP addresses. So we have assigned this IP address into the OSPF. Now let's assign this IP address into the OSPF, right? If I'm not wrong, we are having net 192.168. so let's do that. 1.12.0.0.0 area 1, and I'm going to change the IP address, which is going to be 2.12.0.0 area 1. And let's see if any kind of message comes on this particular router. I think so it should come, but if it's not coming, so that's also totally fine. Let's go till then to the PC and check if we are going to be having some connectivity, right? Let's go to the desktop, command prompt, and let's run the command again. So here also you can see that no, it's not done yet. Request timed out. So we have to configure something also in the terminal, in the hopes on the PC. So we are going to be having gateway DNS. We're going to be having interface. All right. So what we can do is we can try first of all from here to this PC if it works or not. Right, so let's go to the CLI, and so again we have to enter conft and let's do ping 192.168.2.21. So you can see that basically I'm unable to reach to the PC from my router, so it is also having the connection issue. So let's try do ping 192.168.2.12 if it works here. Alright, by the way, we have to assign OSPF on this router also if I'm not wrong, because it's a long time I didn't use the Cisco packet tracer. So let's assign the OSPF on this router also. Router OSPF 100, do ship int bri for checking the IP addresses. We are having net 192.168.1.21.000 area 1, and I hope so now it should be working. If it's the case, let's see if I get any message on my first router, any kind of message. So yeah, we got a message. So here you can see that from loading to full, loading is done. If I go on my second router now, I think so there should also be a message of OSPF. So yes, we are having an OSPF message. Now if I try to ping, let's see if it works or no. So now you can see that even in the third place it is able to ping. Now let's try to ping the IP address of the computer, which is the 21. Now this is something where it will be stopped, right? Because we are not having the OSPF which is being enabled inside our computer, right? So let's try for pinging the router 2. Desktop command prompt, and it should be 21. So yeah, it's not going to be working, right? So yeah, request timed out. But here, as you can see, that previously we were having this interface was having connection with this interface, but as soon as we were sending the request from this interface to this interface, it was not able to pass. But now it is basically able to pass from this interface to this interface, right? And the last step is to basically have the request coming from here and going to here. Now that is something which we have to configure. We have to write some code in the programming section of the PC. So that is something another part. All right, so this is something which is really great. We are having some firewall sections also. We are having some IP configuration. So here you can see that we are using some static IP address which is being assigned. So yeah, overall if you see, we are having tons and tons of things in this one. Now what the second thing can be, like suppose if we are going to be having so many routers, like suppose if I'm going to be taking, all right, so if I'm going to be taking tons and tons of routers, right? Suppose if I'm going to be making a topology, then it's really hard to remember the IP addresses. I'm going to be taking a wire, and if I'm going to be connecting like this, and this, and suppose if I connect like this, now this is something which is really hard, because as usual you want the request going from this PC to the last router 3. So you can see that it should be having an internet connectivity from this PC to the last PC. So that is something which is really important in networking, to configure the devices so that you can have some pinging connections. Now that is something where the security also works, cyber security. You have to find some weaknesses into programming or into configurations. There is a misconfiguration, you can actually exploit that, take advantage of that. So everything is based on the configurations. All right, so that's it for today's webinar. I hope so you really enjoyed. If you have any questions, make sure to ask to the email or send an email to the education diary if you want. And if you have any questions regarding this, you can actually comment down on the YouTube, so we will try to respond to you. All right, so have a good night ahead everyone.